What's up everybody, welcome back to Fast RC. My name is Ryan. In today's video we're going to cover the rumored Maxx Slash. We're going to do a detailed breakdown and review, and let's take a look at some of the parts. We're going to cover everything from the body, the chassis, wheels and tires, electronics. We're going to talk about price estimate, and then you're going to want to stick around to the end because I have some thoughts on whether this project is actually real or not, and some clues that kind of lead me one way or the other. So you're going to want to stick around for that. So let's not waste any more time and let's get to it. Alright, so let's talk about the chassis and the body. First, we'll start off with the chassis. So overall in length of the chassis, I think this is going to be very comparable to the 1/7 scale Arrma Mojave, which comes in around 28 inches, a little bit more than that. I would imagine that this chassis is going to be about the same. Looking at the pictures here, as far as length, it seems like a direct competitor. Other things about this chassis, we can definitely tell this has the Traxxas Maxx DNA in the chassis. The dead giveaway is the shock towers there on the front and the rear, and the way that they're molded into the chassis. Definitely a key signature of the Maxx. Some other things to talk about the chassis, the length. So I want to give a special shout out to Zaz Miata, who had comments in my video last night about this Maxx Slash. Seem to think that this is actually going to be a longer wheelbase than the normal Maxx V1 and V2. Those trucks coming in respectively at 12.6 inch or 32 centimeters or 13.6 inches or 34.5 centimeters. This actually looks a little bit longer in my opinion, probably like 14 inch, 14.5 inch would be my guess. So definitely going to be a bigger and longer truck. Kind of reminds me of the recently released Traxxas Raptor in that sort of same vein. Other things, just take a look at the bumper. Love the way the molded bumpers look on this thing. It looks a little bit more futuristic and kind of up to date with the times. Looking at the bottom side, same thing. You got the cover for the center drive shaft along with the tub chassis. Just very, very nice looking. Like the way the arms look. Obviously, the A-arms on this are going to be a lot narrower than the Traxxas Maxx since we're fitting this under a short course body. And then the shocks. So we see we got red anodized aluminum body shocks that are threaded. Nice touch there. I would imagine that these shocks are going to be a little bit shorter than what we would see on the Traxxas Maxx. As far as like length or like height of the shocks, I'd probably guess around 105 to 110 millimeters. Not sure if there's going to be a difference from front to back, but like we know, like most Slashes, they have different shocks from front to rear. So I'd imagine this will probably be the same, but we'll have to wait and find out. Okay, let's talk about the body. So first and foremost, we know that this is going to be a clipless body just by way of looking at the body posts on the chassis. As far as the length and size, like I talked about, this vehicle, you know, the Mojave is a 28-inch vehicle, so I would imagine this body is going to be in the ballpark of 28 to 30 inches. There was one comment in my last night's video where we talked about maybe this vehicle might not be able to make it over 70 miles an hour, and if anybody's tried to push a short course truck that fast, we definitely know that parachuting becomes an issue. So I kind of wonder how Traxxas is going to handle that, because if it doesn't, there's a good chance that this thing is like flying off the road at 70 miles an hour. And then the last thing about the body, since we know that it's clipless, there's a pretty good chance that there's going to be a lot of extensive bracing under the body, just like all the other clipless bodies that Traxxas has. So I'm pretty excited about that. It's definitely a nice touch and something that helps to keep the body in shape. All right, let's move on to the wheels and tires. So we're going to zoom in real close and take a look at the actual measurements on the tires. This is one of the first things I noticed when looking at this picture. So 5.3 inches tall. It looks like it's a 2.2 inch tire on the outside, very close to short course, but it's a 3.2 diameter on the inside. So it's not a short course wheel. This is probably like a Traxxas UDR type wheel. So very, very interesting. We also noticed that on the side of the tire and on the front of the box, it says that it's belted tires. So that's a nice touch, especially when you're going to have 6S power. Definitely going to need that. Another thing that I was paying really close attention to, zooming in on the wheel, is what kind of wheel hex does this thing have? I'm very interested in this because I'm not really sure. I would imagine that this is probably a 17 millimeter wheel hex. And we zoom in really close, it kind of looks like that. It's probably pretty big, but what's throwing me off, I guess, is that we have these other little screws that are around the wheel hex, and I kind of wonder what that's about. I wonder if like maybe the wheel hex is like removable of some sort. I'm not sure. Of course, like 17 millimeter like is just removable in general, but very interesting build to this wheel, and I'm curious to see how these look in more detail. But overall, like, this looks to me any like Traxxas UDR or like Mojave type of tire might work on this vehicle. 5.3 inches. I know in my past videos I talk a ton about the Hyrax U4 tires, and it looks like those tires would probably fit perfect on this vehicle. Overall, very exciting. And last thing on the wheels and tires, the compound, I have no idea what the compound is going to be, but I would imagine with this much power, it's probably going to be a slightly stiffer compound, something that still is sticky but can hold up to the power and the abuse. But that's all I got for wheels and tires. Let's go ahead and move on to the next section. All right, on to the electronics. So first and foremost, the motor and ESC. This looks very much like the Traxxas UDR power plant that we would see in that vehicle, which is the VLX 6S along with the 2200 kV motor. I would imagine that this is probably going to have very similar electronics. If anything, maybe the motor has slightly higher kV to hit that 70-mile-an-hour top range. But taking a look a little bit closer at the ESC, we can see it has dual plugs, so you can plug in two 3S batteries to get the 6S. That's a nice touch. Along with the battery compartment, it should be big enough to hold two batteries. But overall, like I said, this looks very much like the Traxxas UDR type of power plant. All right, onto the servo. So I can't really tell which model servo this is. I know that it's blue and it's probably waterproof. As far as the torque specs and what servo model this actually is, there's no way really to tell. I know that the UDR comes with a 2075R Metal Gear servo. So hopefully this servo is also Metal Gear, but like I said, I can't really tell. We just know that it's blue and it's probably waterproof. All right, last thing, touch on electronics with the radio. There's no radio transmitter in sight, so we have no idea what this thing is using, but it's probably going to be your standard Traxxas type transmitter with a few channels, and I do wonder if at some point the thing comes out with some type of LED lighting or things like that, but we'll have to wait and see. All right, let's talk about the price. So I'm actually re-recording this from what I recorded earlier this morning. Because the more I look into this vehicle, the more I think the price is going to be a little bit closer to the UDR. Currently, the Traxxas UDR is $750. I think if this truck is real, Traxxas Maxx Slash, I think the price is going to come in around like $699. And I mainly think that because it's got less scale details than the UDR, but it still has the same power plant. It still has the VXL 6S with probably a 2200 kV motor, so my guess is it probably comes in around like $699. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about whether we think this truck is real or not. It's still a question. We don't know if it's actually a real truck. Nothing's been officially released. We know in some of the Facebook groups and on Reddit posts that this vehicle was supposedly purchased by somebody and then was showed off in a Facebook group and then on Reddit. But just looking at the more detailed pictures, I would definitely lean on the side of saying, yes, this probably is real. But I want to point something out to you on the supposed box that this thing came in, and just some things that are kind of throwing me off. We actually had somebody in the video last night that pointed out that most of Traxxas boxes usually say 4x4, not four-wheel drive. And so you can see here on this box, it says four-wheel drive. That's one thing, but looking even further, I kind of noticed that like on this box, and so like the truck, the net, like the decal of the netting on the driver's side looks kind of weird, like a little bit distorted, like very much reminds me of kind of like an AI generated image. And then the Traxxas, not the Traxxas, I mean, it's not a logo, but the actual word Traxxas that's written there on the driver's side door. For some reason, the T looks kind of distorted too. It may just be like the box or the angle of the box, but the T looks slightly distorted, and it kind of, like reading that comment and then looking again at the box, it did give me a little bit of pause, and I was like, gosh, I wonder if we're all getting duped. I'm not sure, like especially with the way people are able to generate AI images nowadays. They look, photorealistic, and I think it would be a pretty tall task to make a photorealistic image of all like the chassis and the body in the previous images I just showed you. That would be pretty tough, but probably not impossible, but would definitely take a lot of time and tweaking. So I don't know. I am on the side of saying that this is probably a real project, and I think if I really thought it was fake, I probably wouldn't make a video about it, but I have a pretty good feeling that this is probably real, just based off of what we're seeing and just the way that Traxxas works and usually the type of vehicles they come out with. It kind of makes sense to me that they would come out with a direct competitor against Arrma and the Arrma Mojave of 1/7 scale and some of the other larger trucks they have. I know that Traxxas already has the UDR, which is the very much scale version of this truck, but it would kind of make sense to me also to make a short course truck or like a desert like a desert runner type truck, but that is not so scale, but is more like basher oriented. It makes sense, and I do think there is a void in Traxxas's lineup that this Maxx Slash could absolutely fill. So that's my take on it. What do you guys think? Go ahead and comment below. I really appreciate it. If you guys like this kind of video, like and subscribe. I really appreciate it. It's been really fun over the last like 15 hours to discuss this new potential vehicle with you guys, and I really enjoy it. So go ahead and stick around. I got more videos coming out on other projects, and then any news that comes out on the Maxx Slash, I'm absolutely going to cover it. And if it actually is real and does come out, I'm going to probably try to pick one up if I can. So, alright, I'll see you guys on the next video.